Want to live off dividends without needing $1 million bucks? Today, I'll show you the fastest way to make that happen. My name's Jordan, a 7-year investor and a millionaire, and in this video, I'm breaking down exactly how much is needed for you to retire off dividends, how fast you can get there, and a very simple plan on how you can replace your income with dividends. So first, let's define what it actually means to live off of dividends. When people say they want to live off dividends, it means they want their investments to cover how much they would spend every single year without ever having to sell their stocks. So if you need $50,000 a year to live, well, you'd want a stock portfolio that generates $50,000 a year in dividends. And of course, you want it done completely passively. So how much do you actually need to make that happen? Well, it all depends on your dividend yield, which is just the percentage that your investments pay you per year. For example, if you invest in something that pays a 4% dividend yield per year, and you need $50,000 a year to cover your expenses, well, you need about $1.25 million invested. If you need $30,000 a year, you need about $750,000 invested to cover your expenses at a 4% yield. So yeah, it's a lot of money. But don't worry, I'm going to show you how to do this much faster than the typical path. You see, the most common thinking people come to is, why don't I just invest in stocks that have higher dividend yields? And that's a real option, but it comes with pros and cons. Let me break it down for you. There are dividend ETFs and stocks that pay around 6, 7, or even 8% annual yields per year. For example, you've got ETFs like JEPI, which pays around 7 to 9%, QYLD, which pays around 11 to 12%, RYLD, which pays about the same thing of 11%, and some riskier ones like SVOL, which pays over 15%, but obviously there's more risk. Now, with those kind of yields, you need way less money just to hit your goals. For example, if you invest in something that pays 10% a year and you have $50,000 to live, you only need $500,000 invested. So yes, a higher yield can definitely cut your timeline by more than half. But here's the part that nobody talks about, which is the risk. High yield ETFs and stocks often have limited upside. They may not grow in any value, and sometimes their dividend yields get cut, especially when times aren't going well. Plus, a lot of these high yield ETFs use option strategies to maximize their gains. They'll use strategies like covered calls, which limit the amount of upside potential they can actually make. So while you are getting bigger monthly checks, your portfolio may not grow at all, or it may even go down. That's why I don't recommend going to do 100% high yield growth strategies. Instead, let me show you a blended strategy. Here's what I've been using and what I recommend going forward if you're looking to live off dividends in the near future. You want to have a blend of stable dividend growth stocks, high yield ETFs, and growth focused investments to cover all your bases. So first, you'd want about 50 to 70% of your portfolio to consist of high growth dividend stocks. Certain names like SCHD, VIG, VYM, and typical blue chip stocks like Johnson & Johnson or Coca-Cola. These don't have crazy high yields, maybe around 3 to 4%, but they grow over time, and they usually do increase their dividends year over year. Next, what I would do is take about 20 to 30% of my portfolio and put it into higher yield ETFs, something like JEPI or QYLD. Things are a little bit more riskier, but they do pay out a lot more over time. And third, I'd want to put about 10 to 20% in just high growth stocks or different ETFs to make sure I can keep beating inflation as time goes on and watch my portfolio actually grow instead of staying constant. This is a very smart blended mix that gives you cash flow, growth over time, but also helps you beat against inflation. So let's break down a real example of how long this would actually take. Let's say you could invest $40,000 a year and you're aiming for a target yield of about 6% annually, which is definitely possible if you've mixed medium and high yield options. Here's what it might look like. Year one, you have about 40 grand invested and you're earning about $2,400 in dividends. By year 5, you've got about $250,000 invested. And at this point, you're earning around $15,000 a year in dividends. By year 10, you have about $600,000 invested and you're earning around $36,000 a year strictly off dividends. By year 12 or 15, if you reinvest and compound your investments, you could realistically be at over $1 million, earning you $50,000 in dividend income. So you could actually live off dividends in 10 to 15 years, and much faster if you increase your income, increase your yield, and make sure you're picking the right stocks. Now, I know what you're thinking, Jordan, this still sounds like it's going to take forever, so let me show you a few ways that we can even speed this up even more. But here's the hard truth. People think saving their money is going to be the fastest way to invest more so they can make more money. But saving alone can only get you so far. You can save your cup of coffee, you can save Starbucks, but it's really not going to make that big of an impact when it comes to living off of dividends. So if you're serious about investing your income and living off of dividends, you've got to find a way to increase your income. That's going to be the biggest lever you can pull. And the cool thing is, once you start making more money, it becomes so much easier to invest more and save more as well. So here are a few ways that you can do to increase your income. First is starting a side hustle, whether that's freelancing, online consulting, or selling different products online. There are so many ways to make an extra $1,000 to $3,000 a month online, and this is just one of them if you have a unique skill that you happen to be good at. And every dollar you make on this can go straight into your investments. Second is starting a business. Now, if you have a very specific knowledge or skill, you could productize it and sell it to individuals across the world. Yes, it takes time and yes, it takes effort, but that's one of the best things you can do to ultimately grow your income. Third is picking up or learning a high income skill. Now, this could be literally anything, and it's actually how I got started earning my first $100,000. I learned the skill of day trading, and I'm not saying that you have to learn day trading yourself, but it was a skill that I learned, took me a year or two, and I finally started making profits with it and used that to invest to compound my wealth. Now, if you're not so much in the entrepreneurial spirit, a fourth thing you could do is simply moving up in your company role. A lot of people don't realize this, but switching jobs is actually one of the fastest and quickest ways to get a 20% pay raise. Ask for a raise, switch to a higher paying job, and I promise you'll find yourself in a much better situation financially. Now, the last thing I'll touch on with this point is that you want to really stop looking for more passive income streams. Passive income and living off dividends is really only worth it if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. And so what I would do is start to search for active income streams. Yes, it's going to take a little bit of work, a little bit of time, but ultimately that's what you got to do if you want to make millions of dollars. Because remember, it's not about living frugal for 30 years and saving every single penny that you get. It's about stacking income now as fast as you can, using your time wisely so you can invest it and eventually live off your dividends. If you're able to just simply grow your income a little bit, have a few side hustles that bring a few thousand a month, you'd be so surprised how quickly that can turn into a multi-million-dollar stock portfolio. So focus on growing your active income first, then worry about passive income later once you've reached a 7-figure net worth. Dividends are the end goal, but use active income and rocket fuel to get there first. Because no matter how much you cut back, you can't save your way to wealth without growing the pie. So I'm working on a free investment roadmap where I actually break down the best investment strategy depending on your net worth. And it's not ready right now, but if you subscribe, this is my first video on this channel. If you subscribe and come back to the next video, I'll have it ready and I'll be able to give it to you for free. So subscribe right now by clicking the button below, leave a like or comment if you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next video.